Hello, everybody. Once again, we're dealing with the results of the piece of sculpture that's causing such a great deal of controversy. We're somewhat honored at this time to really have the person that created it, the sculptor himself. His name is Barry Canterna. He's been the subject of a great deal of conversation around the violence that's been going on in our society, has been victimized by it. And today what we're going to attempt to do is relate his artistic expression around this incident to the situation itself. But first, Barry, can you give me some idea of where you come from when you establish a piece of work to do? I mean, what sort of motivates you to develop the kind of artwork that you've become pretty well known for?
It's a continuation of life experiences. Our everyday living, we're all just weather reporters of our day, and I happen to be living in this time, and I'm expressing the happenings that happened to me.
Mm. When did you start with your art expression? Do you remember?
I've been creating and expressing myself my whole life.
Mm. But can you actually consider a specific time more related to it than another? I mean, is there any one time when you really began to feel as though you were expressing yourself through this artwork?
I always did it as a normal existence, is like reading a book or whatever. It's just always been a part of my life. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing it since I can remember. At 5 years old, I painted pictures in oils and watercolors and acrylics also. My mother was a violinist. I played a violin, and I was put in a dance school with my older brother. So I had a lot of outlets for that, a lot of different forms of expression that were, thank God, very good for me. Mm. In every way, I was exposed very young, so yeah. I thank my mother for that.
I noticed that sitting here, we're surrounded by some of the work that you've created. It's unusual art. It's very, very clear and descriptive, yet it's also quite abstract. How would you describe your artwork, basically?
I don't think I would try to describe it.
Mm. It doesn't fit, in other words, any particular sort of trend or realm or whatever?
No. I do bronze castings, I work in marble, I can tell you the materials I work with, but I don't put labels on the things that I do.
The materials that you work with, I know, are sometimes precious metals as well as marble and different types of stone that are quite precious. Do you find that to be a better medium, and if so, why?
All the materials and all the different mediums have their own relevance but more their own spiritual involvement. A stone, the grain of a stone, tells you what to do with it. It tells me what to do with it. It's like I have no choice. This is the way it's supposed to be. I do it. I have certain there's a certain time where it's stepped back and it's a finished product, and it's there, it's in there. It's just for me to take away and get it out. So with the clay is different. The clay is an add-on. Take off, add on, take off. Plaster is the same way, except it's a harder material you can carve with. Bronze is a totally different medium, but when you do work with bronze in mind, you tend to treat the plaster and the clay differently because of the doors that have been opened, and because of the love of working with the metal. A challenge and a commitment is working in marble, because, I mean, you could, with the wrong stroke, shatter everything that you've been working for if you do go against the grain.
Being somewhat familiar with some of the history that you have in exhibiting and sort of commercially dealing with your art, I'm often caught up in the type of sensitivity that's applied to the work. Do you have any idea where you get that sensitivity from?
I can't say where it comes from, but I thank God I have it. Yeah.
Because it sometimes seems to be developed on different levels. There's a relatively interesting sort of human level that a lot of this work comes out through. There is a sort of closeness about the sculpture especially that you create. And yet inherent are what I sense as different types of apprehensions or fears. Now that just may be my own, reading into the artwork. But out of that comes what I guess in a nutshell, would call a degree of sensitivity, or a type of sensitivity. Does any of that fall into play when you're creating it, or are you again just working from a feeling around what the material calls for?
Well, no matter what, I think after a while people develop a style, and the style is one thing is a study for the next thing, is a study for the next thing, is a study for the next thing. And situations and things happen which alter the way you live or whatever, but those changes that happen into your life, your character is still there, your style is still there, you're working because you have to work, because you love it.
It's interesting. A lot of people may not be aware of your level, the level of energy that you apply to living your life. But I've been fortunate in a few instances and have been able to observe that. And I'm wondering if any of that is derived through your knowledge or awareness of some other artist in some area. For instance, you're very broad in terms of your artistic development, and it's in a number of areas. Is there, or are there any artists, or is there an artist that has somehow had an impact on some of how you project yourself?
Oh, I would say every artist and every individual and every person and every teacher and every one I've ever met probably has some influence, some more than others. But I think we have something to gain from everyone, and the artist, there's really no one that I look up to. I mean, I can say Michelangelo is a great sculptor, but I mean, I love his work. I love Rodin's work. I could go on naming Giacometti, Pustergi, people that, that I relate to, but I put myself on the same level as anyone. I have something to say, as we all do.
That's great.
And this is my way of expressing. This is my view.
Right. Give me your view of relationships.
Relationships are the most important thing in the world.
Why?
Because that's all there is. That's really the gold and the richness in life, is relationships, people, friends.
Well, I'm sure that what you say is something that in your mind is extremely clear. But to someone who might have a much more, and people do have much more material kinds of priorities in a lot of instances. To someone like that, what would you say? Even if you were explaining relationships as a priority or feeling.
I stopped saying things. I mean, I can only say what I feel, and I think actions speak louder than words. You can't, I'm not trying to change the world in any way, shape, or form, but in my heart, in my mind, in my soul, I know through the experiences that I've had and through almost losing my life and seeing death in front of me, and mainly one instance that did. I've always felt this way, but even it just really reconfirmed my whole feeling about people and about what this world is all about, because if we all don't come together soon, then we all might not be here.
Mm-hmm.